Hey everybody, welcome to Com 201. I'm Carl Brown. I'll be your professor for this summer course. Today is just the introduction to the class. We have a few things to do this week. I'll get into all of that, show you sort of what to expect. We don't have a very long time together in terms of weeks, so we will want to move through our material fairly quickly, but I also want to make sure that we're all on the same page, that everyone understands what's going on, and that I'm not leaving any questions unanswered. So let's get to it. I will always try to make the videos as succinct as possible. So I don't want to, waste your time by just continuing on and on. But again, I want to make sure that I give you a clear understanding of the course. Let's start out with the syllabus. So I'm going to shrink myself. Oh, that's the opposite, Carl. Let's go this route. There we go. And look at the syllabus. So the syllabus is on our Blackboard website. In fact, if you go over to that, sorry, I'm always in the wrong spot. You can go here to syllabus and schedule, and you will see that you can download the entire syllabus here. And then, of course, you've got a quick snapshot of the schedule there. And we'll go through this in some detail in just a few minutes. When you open up the syllabus, here is what you will see. Let me move myself to the side. So at the top, you've got all the basic information that you would expect in just about any class. This is Com 201. It is not Section 16. I just saw that. I'll need to change that one eventually, but it is summer 2021, and it is an asynchronous online course. And what that means is that there will be no in-person meetings and there will be no online virtual meetings where we all need to be at the same place at the same time. There may come a point later on this summer where we need to meet one-on-one or in very small groups. And if that's the case, we can handle that later. But generally speaking, there won't be a need to have everyone together in the same place. Now, on the screen, you can see my information. Again, I'm Dr. Carl Brown. You can call me Carl or Dr. Brown. My office doesn't matter a lot because this is a virtual course, but I am in Lake Michigan Hall. I come to campus usually in summer once or twice a week since we are all virtual. I also run the speech lab on campus, which there'll be more on that in a second. And I'm usually either in my office or the speech lab, which one is right around the corner from the other in Lake Michigan Hall. Our class will run from June 28th to August 11th. During that time, you can meet with me at a variety of times that are good for you, but everything will just be by appointment. So instead of coming up with an hour or two a week that I am in one spot and no one comes, I would rather just try to get you where you need to be and meet with you at those times. So if you ever need to meet with me, don't let this by appointment thing throw you off. Please just let me know. And I'm very available. I mean, I'm usually around working online virtually with speech lab people between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Monday through Thursday. So if it's during those times, especially, I can more than likely meet unless I have a meeting. My office, Google Meet office, you see the link to it there if you want to copy and paste that, or of course the dial in information. And of course, my email is listed. That's the best way to get me. Just email me, and then if I don't respond within 24 hours, not counting weekends or holidays, things like that, but generally, if I don't respond within 24 hours, send me a follow up if it's crucial, and I can respond that way. I'm pretty quick with the responses, but again, weekends, holidays, I usually will, try not to do more work than necessary. So as you know, you can see there, this is a speech class, but it's not a normal speech class because nothing's normal. I don't know that normal is even a real word anymore. It's sort of just what it is at the moment. And that's the same thing for this course. So we're going to do it in a different way than what most of us expected, what I prefer as a professor, as a speech expert. I like to do this in person because it's sort of the public part of public speaking, but it is what it is. And so we've got to do what we've got to do, and that is speaking online. That's going to pose sort of its own set of challenges in terms of preparing for speeches, because you're going to now need to think about recording framing, what's behind you, looking at the camera versus eyes, lots of stuff. And don't worry, we're going to cover all of that. But it's just a little different, a little, in my opinion, more difficult than an in person class. So, what are we going to do in here? Well, you can see from the course overview, and I won't read this to you word for word, but we're going to learn not just how to give a speech, but how to think about a speech in a way that is useful just to give it. Why are we giving speeches? Is it just to talk? I hope not. We'll want to figure out some different strategies we can use. We'll want to talk about good topics and what they may mean to different audiences, using good quality sources and citations in your speech, structure, outlining. I really want you to be more confident at the end of this course than you are right now. So, some specific things we will learn as you see the checklist there: organize and support a presentation so that it's clear, deliver ideas clearly and effectively to an audience, and that will vary on how you do that depending on who the audience is. Apply effective public speaking concepts to real life performances. Well, that's what we're here for. I'm not here just to sort of give you this theoretical speech idea, and here's how you might give a speech some point in life. No, this is much more practical. So we'll find things that we can do that will mimic speeches you will give. You may not think of it as a speech. Maybe it's a job interview or talking in front of a community group or some group that you're a part of. We're really going to be able to apply these skills to life. Next, use criteria of a presentation to assess a speech. Know if you're doing a good job without me having to tell you. Understand and consider the audience. Again, that's the whole reason we're speaking, is based on our audience. We need you to have credibility as a speaker, and if you don't have that, built in because of personal experience or education, you can still be a credible speaker. It just requires citing those quality sources. Then we will identify and develop techniques to deal with anxiety. Notice on there it says address. I said deal with. It's not solve or overcome. Don't use that language. It's normal to be nervous, and we're going to be nervous sometimes. That's not what we're trying to do, is get past it. We're just trying to manage it, deal with it, so that we can continue as speakers. Next, we will learn strategies for effectively outlining and preparing speeches, whether that's informative or persuasive. We'll go over what's called Monroe's motivated sequence, which is, in my opinion, the most effective organizational strategy for a persuasive message. To do that and to cite good sources, we need to become efficient researchers. I know this isn't a research class, but having those skills to work smart, not hard, will benefit you, I promise. We want to understand some theoretical foundations of persuasion. So again, we're going to use real life applications, but we want to understand what makes someone persuasive and what will persuade a group of people. So we'll talk about ways to do that. And the big picture there at the bottom, I want you to self-identify as a speaker when this class is over. And that doesn't mean that you go into a particular field or that you take on a certain role in society. It could, but most students see themselves as students who sometimes have to give a speech. And I want you to see yourself as a citizen, as a student citizen who is able to give a speech. It's a little different, and it just takes the idea of giving speeches out of the dreaded category and into the list of strengths that you might have after you are finished with your education. Now, as I've mentioned, this is an asynchronous class, meaning there are no meetings, but you should still follow the outline and due dates. So those will be listed. We'll go over those. But whatever you do, don't get behind, okay? Don't get behind. That is going to be the worst move to make. And if you happen to get a little bit behind, don't let it snowball. Email me, get with me. It's better to miss one assignment and get a bad grade for one thing and then rebound strong than it is to sort of let it impact on down the line. Because the way things will work in this class for the most part is that they will build on one another. So your first assignment will build to your second, to your third, and so on and so forth. Now, this isn't always true for everything we do, but it does make it so that if you get behind, it makes it harder to catch up. But if you catch up and you stay caught up, it makes it easier to move from one assignment to the next. My advice is to block out a regular chunk of time, whatever works best for you, and to make sure that that is when you're working on this class. And that will help you hopefully stay on track. But again, I can't stress this enough. If you have questions or you're confused, you feel lost, contact me, email me, and let me know. And I promise we'll make it work. We'll get back together on it. No worries. But you got to let me know. So, what will you need for this course? First up, access to the internet. You're going to need that obviously because you're watching this video, and that's where all of our materials will be. You're going to need a recording device. More than likely, you have one in front of you, whether it's a camera on your computer, your laptop, or maybe your phone. All of those will work, but you will need to record your presentations. So make sure that you're able to do that. And last, you'll need the course pack, which is attached to this document. It's in the syllabus there. And just to give you a quick view, scrolling down, you'll see chapter 2, some surveys, you've got chapter 3, and so on and so forth. And the idea here is that I wrote what I think is most important that we need to get out of a class like this. And I didn't want to have you spend $100 or $60 or whatever on a speech book for 7 weeks, 6 weeks, really. And the way I think about textbooks, I think they're vital for some classes. For other classes, I don't. And this is one where I just don't. I really think that you pay your tuition so that you can have me, an expert, tell you about public speaking. And that's why I went to school all those years. Why then would I ask you to spend more money for another expert to tell you what they think because they wrote it down? Doesn't make sense to me. Now, feel free to consult outside textbooks if that's what you would like, but everything you'll need to do fine in this course is in the course pack and in these lecture videos. That is crucial. Watch the videos. So important. That's that access to the internet. What are the policies for our class? Well, the first one is the attendance policy, and well, there's no course meeting, so there is none. That shouldn't be a big deal for anybody. But again, I urge you to set out a standard block of time that you can repetitively go back to, because that's going to help you keep up with the work. And this is where our number 2 idea comes in, the late work policy. I don't like late work. I don't deal with it well. If there's an emergency, okay, maybe, but that's going to be a case-by-case basis. So you can see there, for anything that's due, you need to have it turned in. Even if you're not going to, be around on that day, you can turn things in early. But I don't like makeups. It's easier just to keep things going, right? I like to set a chunk of time for this class too, and that's when I will grade. And so I like to have it all there when I can. Now, again, if it's a university sanctioned absence, an illness, jury duty, emergency, let me know if you can in advance. If you can't, because it's an emergency, let me know as soon as you can. And I will need some sort of documentation on those. And it's not because I want to be like, oh, I don't trust you. You didn't turn in an assignment, said you were sick, but now I'm asking you for a doctor's note. That's just because I'm sure there are other students who weren't prepared but did it anyway just so they could meet the deadline. And now I'm going to give you an extension, but I need to be able to see that it's legit. Okay, so that's the late work policy. Let's not do it if at all possible. For your speeches, you do not have to dress up in terms of, going all out and wearing a suit, but you should look professional enough so that your appearance doesn't hurt your credibility. So you see there, don't wear t-shirts, workout clothes, pajamas, those sorts of things. Just look presentable when you are presenting, right? Number 4, the extra credit policy. There's only one way to earn extra credit in this course, and that is by going to the speech lab for extra consultations. In a moment, we'll talk more about this, but the short version is you will have to, for a grade, go to the speech lab 3 times this summer. One is just to see how things work in terms of the system and logging in. It'll take you 10, 15 minutes tops. The second one is for your informative speech, and the third one is for one of the 2 persuasive speeches. And so that's what you are required to do. If you go beyond those three, that's where you will get your extra credit. And that will go on as bonus points on your speech grade. But all of the grades in this class, the assignments, add up to 100 points total. So if it adds on to that grade, then it's just like adding it on to the final, right? It's all on that same 100-point scale. As for email, as I've mentioned, the best way to get a hold of me is email. If I don't get back within 24 hours, let me know. You can call my office and leave a voicemail, and that will also go to my email. Number 6, academic integrity policy. It's hard to cheat in here. Really, really, really hard to cheat in here. I think the only way you could really do it is if you, one, just used an old outline that was someone else's. And, if they were in my class, I'll probably remember it. If they weren't in my class, it's probably not going to be in the right format anyway. So that's just sort of a waste. But really, the main way people can lose points here is usually by accident. And that is when they don't cite sources in their speech. If you do not cite sources in your speech, I have to give you a 0. There has to be at least one citation in there, or it's plagiarized because you didn't just know all that information. You looked it up somewhere. So make sure that you're giving credit where it's due, and that won't be a problem. Number 7 is the FERPA policy, and that's where I tell you that I will talk to you about your grades. I'm happy to do that. We can do that in a virtual office meeting. We can do that through your Grand Valley email. But other than that, and in person, we really can't talk about your grades. So, don't email me from an outside email address and ask about your grade. I have on here, don't let your mom call me. That really happened once. I had a phone call here at Grand Valley. And it was a woman who was asking me about her daughter's performance in my class. And I told her, I said, ma'am, I can't discuss that with you. It's, federal law. And she said, oh, but you could talk to her about it. I said, yeah, I can talk to her about it. She said, okay. So long story short, she pauses for a moment, comes back with her voice slightly changed, pretending to be her daughter and trying to get me to give information to her. And it was sad. I told her as much. I said, ma'am, please, come on now. You don't need to do this to you, and don't waste my time. So check with me about your grade directly, but understand I'm limited in how we can talk about it. It needs to be in a secure way. Number 8 is the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA. Now, if you need accommodations in any way, let me know. But more importantly, let Disability Support Resources know. And you see their number there, 331-2490. And what has to happen if you're not familiar with this, maybe you're a first-year student, is that you will need to register with that office, which is easy and quick and discreet. Then they will send me a note that says you might need these different sort of accommodations. And if that's the case, I'm happy to do any and everything that we need to do to get you through this course. But understand, I do need to hear from them, not just you. And that's, again, sort of an effort to keep things fair. Number 9, Title IX. Just know that as a GVSU employee, I'm obligated to report things that I hear about or see in terms of crimes, sexual harassment, misconduct, assault, and that sort of thing. I'm not obligated to identify you, but I have to report it. And the only reason I put this on here is one semester there was a student who gave a speech about being sexually assaulted on campus. And the student said very clearly this was their first time talking about it outside of their very close friend group. And since it happened on campus, according to the student, I had to report that. And again, I went to the student and told them the situation, and they actually wanted to report it, so it was fine. It worked out as well as it can in that situation. But just know that if you bring up something in the classroom that is of concern, it's not a private setting in that way. All right, number 10, document style policy. Please hear this. Listen, if you've tuned out and you're just sort of doing this in the background, come back. Document style policy. All text submissions, like outlines, anything typed, should only use Microsoft Word documents. You can use Google Docs. I want to add that in. You can use Google Docs, but if I can't open something, I can't grade it. Do not use PDFs. Do not use Apple Pages or whatever it is. Do not use some other word processor program. If I can't open it, I can't grade it, and I don't want to have to track you down for another copy. So let's do everything in Word or Google Docs. Speaking of Google Docs, and this goes right along with number 11, when you do Google Docs, you're just going to share a link, of course. And when you record your videos, I only want you to share a link as well. The key takeaway here is that you need to make sure, anytime you're linking to something else, that I have permission to see it and edit it, right? So the full permission so I can give you feedback. If I don't have that permission, I won't give you points because I can't access it, right? So I can't see it. So, for example, when recording, and you'll make some videos, actually you've got one due by the end of the first week, but to record videos, here's what you do. Okay, record your presentation using a quality camera, making sure that you're visible and we can hear you and you're practicing effective delivery. Don't worry about that for the first one. The key takeaway here is we can see you and we can hear you. Then, second step, upload your video. Excuse me, a little summertime cold here. Upload your video to either your Google Drive that's attached to your Grand Valley email or to YouTube, which again, you have account through your Grand Valley email with YouTube. I honestly recommend using YouTube. It's just easier. But upload it to YouTube, let's say. Then go ahead and get the shareable link with permissions set so that I can see it, edit it, do all that stuff with it. Then get that and post the link into the Blackboard discussion board. And I'll show you those in just a minute. But that is what we need to do here. Please do not, hear me on this, do not ever, for a video assignment, post a video file, whether it's a .mov, a .mp4, any of those. We don't want a video file. That takes up a whole lot of space. I've got to download those. Virus scans them. I mean, it's just a big to-do. So let's stay away from that if at all possible, and I think it is. So, yeah, a couple of key things here. These dates are not accurate, but let me go ahead and give these to you while we're here. Let's go back over one. GVSU academic calendar. Let's find this one. Spring, summer 2021. So we're going to begin the second 6 weeks. Last day to add or register is July 2nd. The last day here for 100% tuition refund is July 2nd by 5 p.m. 75% tuition refund, July 9th at 5. Last grade to drop with a W is July 30th. And so these are the dates they want us to point out. But again, as you saw, I just did GVSU academic calendar in Google, and this is what I've got, right? So it's a pretty quick and easy thing to do, and we can make that work. So let's jump back to our syllabus here. Oops. There we go. Special notes, yeah, again, check those dates. The time limits idea here is that for your major speeches, there's the three big ones, you're going to be timed. And if you go under or over that time limit beyond a 30-second window, then you're going to get a point taken away, or taken away every time you're 30 seconds short, 30 seconds long. So for example, I'll give you like a 4 to 6 minute, 2-minute window. If you are 6:01 to 6:30, it's a point. If you're 6:31 to 7, it's 2 points, and so on and so forth. Same thing on the other end. So, you've always going to have a 2-minute window to hit. Make sure that you're working to hit that. As I mentioned, all of the assignments in this class will be sort of cumulative in terms of grades, so they all add up. And we have a standard grade scale that you see here on the screen and in the syllabus. Now, let's look at our schedule of activities. Note the top. All work is due on Fridays at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's just the day we're going to go with. And I like a Monday through Friday work week, so that's my goal, is to get us through with this and be done with it on the weekends. So here is the setup. You see the week one, there's really 6 weeks. The seventh week is quote exam week. We're going to call our second speech our exam. But this week, you've got what we're doing now. This is sort of chapter one, if you think of it that way. We'll get more into that. But then we've got two other chapters, and I'll make one video per chapter and put them in the Blackboard site. This week, you have, well, first week anyway, you have an intro speech due. For that one, we'll talk about it, but you're just going to tell us a little bit about yourself. Then we've got 3 chapters next week, and you'll see over there's always something to do in this column. So you're going to have a topics and sources worksheet. You have to do the speech lab tour. Your outline will be due, and so on and so forth. And so that's the way this will work. Now, I want to point out just briefly that everything's due on Fridays at 11:59, except for this last week, because it's a short week. So this work is due on Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. And this is your final speech or your exam, if you want to think of it that way. Now, what you'll notice over here with these assignments, there's a little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the reason I have those there is because they correspond with these numbers. So if you see that assignment number 1 is due, then just come right here and you can see it. So for example, the speech that you'll give us during the first week is an intro speech. Don't worry about delivery at all. Just tell us these things: your first and last names, your hometown or multiple hometowns if you have that, your major or majors, short and long-term goals, and then just something interesting about yourself, whatever that might be. And then you can see that for each assignment that we have here. Some of these are fairly brief, some of them are a little longer. If you have questions, again, about any of the assignment details, let me know. And I'm happy to give you more details if possible. Now, what I'll say about that is, if you have a question about something, chances are someone else does as well. And so with that being the case, please ask questions as you have them. I mean, that's how we're going to learn sort of as a group. And so I will post the answers to those questions as announcements. If I get one that I think, oh, boy, I bet a lot of folks are going to ask that. That way it saves people from having to ask the same question 10 times. The virtual speech lab, you saw that you have to go. We've talked about that one. But if you go to gvsu.edu/speechlab, you will find us there. I'm going to go ahead and go so I can show you. When you get here, you'll see a variety of things. We have some resources in terms of like guide sheets, videos, those sorts of things dealing with different topics. We also have our hours and locations, which that is going to be Monday through Thursday, 10 to 2 over the summer. But the probably most important thing for you is if you go back to the main page and you click here on this picture, you're going to go into a Google Meet room and you're going to see something like this. I'm just going to click that for now. And you see that Brady Mills, who is one of our consultants, is in there right now at work in the virtual speech lab. And if you need to go in for an appointment and you don't have one, click join now and we'll see if we can get you in. If you want to schedule an appointment, you can go to a different site, which is gvsu.edu/bookit. BOOKIT. Now yours is going to look a little different when you log in because I have administrator stuff. But the idea here is that you would simply come up where it says new appointment and click it. You've got the research center, the digital consultants, the writing center, and speech. So click book it with speech and then drop this down. You will have my class listed here. So click on that. Tell them if it's a group consultation or not. Do you want 30 minutes or an hour? If you're working on, say, an outline and you're partially done with it, you could upload that file. Just select it and put it in there. You will want to always click virtual for right now. We will be back in person in the fall, but for the summer, click virtual. Tell it what date you want to come in for. Let's say it's the 23rd. You only want the 23rd, and then you can come down and select any consultant, and that will tell you what times are available. So there is what you can choose from on that day. Everything is basically open. So let's say you click on 11, no problem. You will click here, and this will tell you that, or it tells us that you're agreeing to our policy on privacy. And the big takeaway there is the consultants won't share anything about your consultation other than the session notes that they will take based on, here's what we talked about and your attendance. But if anything else comes up, it's private. So that's what you would do. Click confirm and schedule. I'm going to click out of there. But that is Book It. It's not hard to use. It's pretty user friendly on your end of things. Okay. Going back over for just a moment, the grade tracker, I'll put those on Blackboard so you will have full access to those. Matter of fact, I believe all of the assignments are already in the grade book, and so you should be able just to start see your grades posted as assignments are submitted and graded. Now, that is the syllabus overview. I mean, the big chunks of this: contact information, what are we doing in this course? It is asynchronous. Here's what you will need. Don't count on late work. That's the big takeaway there. Make sure that you are recording and submitting documents in the right ways. And then last but not least, you've got the schedule for what's due and when. So again, I will put a different video up for every chapter heading that you see. The only exception will be right now because I want to go ahead and just move to chapter 1. It's very, very brief, as you see there. It's about a page long. And the reason I want to go ahead and cut to this is because we are going to do something a little different. We're going to have a theme for our class. I can't tell you, I'm so tired of hearing speeches on certain topics that I want us to do a little something more meaningful. So I want us to do something that addresses a problem that you feel we have here in America. What are the issues facing our nation? There are tons of them. Which one do you care about? Please think specifically, like what gives you a visceral reaction? It could be in a good way or a bad way. But what I don't want you to do is just go with COVID. Let's avoid that for right now. We just don't need to talk more about COVID at this particular time. I think we're all kind of burned out on that. But when you think about this, the big goal, and hear me on this, is going to be for the informative speech, for you to pick something that's happening in America and just tell us about it. Don't problematize it yet, just tell us about it. Then for the persuasive speeches, you're going to tell us why that thing is a problem, or the absence of that thing maybe is a problem. And then you're going to give us a solution, and we'll get into more detail on that. But the idea is, this is a problem that's bigger than Grand Valley, but you are going to think about how we can start fixing the problem at Grand Valley that could really catch on and maybe make bigger change in the world. So a lot of folks will say things like, well, I don't care about politics. Well, as you can see from these quotations here, the personal is political. Every political decision that's made affects you personally in some way. It could be small, could be large. Other folks will say, I'm just one person. What's the point? Well, JFK told us one person can make a difference and everyone should try. Some will say it's impossible to change the system. The system is big. It's too much. Nelson Mandela said it always seems impossible until it's done, and he was known to do it. You might say, you must be dreaming if you think what I want will ever happen. Each dream begins with a dreamer, said Harriet Tubman. You might think, I'll do something later. This isn't the time. I don't want to worry about it this summer. This is stupid. It's always the right time to do what's right, said Dr. King. I don't like it, but it's not my place to change these things. Well, Leonard Peltier, who is a Native American activist, said silence, they say, is the voice of complicity. But silence is impossible because silence screams. So when we just say, not for me, we don't say anything, we say a lot. And we're going to talk about that as in sort of a concept of communication. So as you see here at the end of this, for this course, you will identify, explore, and discuss a problem facing America. Then for your persuasive speeches, you're going to propose a solution to that problem and focus on this audience at Grand Valley. What can this audience do? How is this audience impacted? What is going on in our lives that is reflective of this bigger national phenomenon? And that is what we're going to focus on over this course. Last thing I'll say about the speeches and these topics is that once you pick a topic, don't change it. Right? You can't change it. You don't want to go and do your first speech on, we need equal pay and between men and women, and then something else about, adoption rights, and then something else about, this other topic. It needs to be the same, again, to make your life easier. You're going to do a lot of work to find some good sources for every speech, but if you've already done some on the first one, why completely change gears and topics for the second, right? So think about how you can pick something that you can deal with for all 7 weeks and it's not going to burn you out. All right, next up, we will talk about chapter 2, but for this video, that is what I have for you. This is, again, your syllabus introduction and sort of the theme for the class that's described there in chapter 1. Make sure you get a copy of this. I don't know if you like to download it or print it or both, but get it to where you know you have it. You can make quick access of it, and it will help you as you move through the course. As always, if you have any questions for me, make sure to email me. I will post updates if there are these questions that come in. I'm looking forward to this summer. I hope that we are able to have a successful class, and I will see you next time.